Hey guys, I've been thinking a lot about the world we are experiencing today, and there's so much division between national, political, and religious identities. And if you think about it, the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, seem to be creating a lot of the problems we're experiencing in the world today. So in light of this, I want to focus this video on one question that I think is one of the most important questions we should be asking. Did Jesus really come to start a religion or to transform our understanding of religion and set us free from religion's fear of an angry God? Now, I have thought about that question a lot, and it led me back to Moses in the Old Testament. Now, I don't know whether Moses, the Exodus and the plagues and splitting the Red, I don't know if that all happened. There are apologists and scholars that are way smarter than I am that can't agree on it. So, I don't know. But I do know that Christianity used Moses to largely shape our understanding of who Jesus is and why he came. So I want to use the story of Moses, and I want to tweak just a little bit. Not the story itself, it's word for word what I'm going to give you, the story that Christianity and Judaism say about Moses. But I want to tweak our perception, how we look at the story a little bit, look at it in a different light, and maybe a light bulb will go off in us. And if so, we have to rewrite the entire story that we've been taught about Yeshua, called Jesus of Nazareth. And I think that would be a very good thing for the world today. Now, to understand Jesus, we have to kind of understand Judaism, which was organized into a religion by Moses. Now, Moses grew up in Egypt. He was the Pharaoh's grandson. So he grew up in the palace and was trained in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. But when he was 40 years old, he killed a man and had to flee for his life across the Sinai Peninsula, where he later would lead the children of Israel. And he ended up in the land of Midian and was taken in by the priest of Midian, who gave Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife. And Moses lived in the land of Midian with his father-in-law, the high priest, for 40 years. And he would have known the Sinai Peninsula like the back of his hand, because he was camped at Mount Sinai, where he would later receive the Ten Commandments, watching his father-in-law's flocks when he saw the burning bush. And I'm sure he had made plenty of trips to the top of the mountain back then. So Moses sees the burning bush at Mount Sinai, and you know the story. He goes back to Egypt, God sends plagues, split the Red Sea open, and the Israelites go back. And now Moses is back at Mount Sinai, and he's in charge of an estimated 2 million freed slaves who are largely illiterate. But Moses was the man for the job, because in Egypt, he had been trained in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. So he would know politically, militarily, economically, socially. He would have known the sciences, and he would have known the mystical arts of the Egyptian magicians and the priesthood. And during his 40 years as the son-in-law of the priest of Midian, he would understood how priesthoods work, and he would understand how rulers have always used religion to unify the minds of the masses into one unit or one hive mind or collective consciousness, so that a tiny group of men at the top can control the minds of the masses. So the words of Moses and the actions of Moses became like the words of God and the actions of God. And Moses was like Pharaoh to the people. So he wrote the Law of Moses, which is 613 commandments that the people were to live by. And he set up a hierarchy government, a theocracy, with a high priest presiding over a 70-member ruling council called the Sanhedrin. And then below them were judges and leaders over thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens. So everybody in that culture was under the law of Moses, and it was strictly enforced upon the people. So then Moses takes his brother Aaron, and he makes Aaron the high priest, and wrote in the law of Moses that only Aaron's sons and his descendants were ever allowed to be high priests. And then what did he do? He called his family clan, the Levites, the leaders, and he said, we're going to set up a tabernacle that will be the house of God here on earth. And only you Levites will be allowed to handle the sacred vessels and perform the ceremonies and rituals, and to receive the tithes and the offerings from the people, and to accept and to perform the animal sacrifices that the people will bring to us. And anyone else trying to perform these rituals would be put to death. Thus saith the law of Moses. So Moses set up a family bloodline to perpetually enforce the law of Moses generation after generation after generation. So now the law of Moses was in place, and the governmental system to enforce and punish those not obeying the law of Moses was in place. So what was Moses like, and what was the law of Moses like? Well, Moses commanded every parent to train their children to fear God and to obey the priest. And anyone who disobeyed the priest was to be put to death. And any rebellious or stubborn child, probably one who asked, why do we have to believe what they tell us to believe? Well, that child could be stoned to death. And Moses pronounced horrible curses on anyone disobeying the law. Moses had a man stoned to death because he was picking up sticks on the Sabbath. Moses sanctioned slavery. A father could sell his daughter as a slave. Or you could beat your slaves as long as you didn't kill them, and they could get up and around in a few days. God ordered genocide on the people, even killing women, children, nursing babies, and slitting open the belly of pregnant women. After one battle where the village had been burned, Moses saw that his soldiers had spared some of the women and children, and he was furious, and he ordered the soldiers, kill all the women and kill all the boys, but you can keep the little virgin girls for yourself. Now, I'm sorry, but that is more evil than even Jeffrey Epstein and his cohorts have done. And this is supposed to be what Jesus was doing in the Old Testament? No freaking way. So what did Jesus have to deal with when he was born into this culture? Jesus was dealing with a totally indoctrinated culture where every child at 2 or 3 years old was taught to fear God, and was taught the Torah, the Bible, the law of Moses, and was taught about God sending plague and famine and fire from heaven upon the disobedient, and taught verses like, God said, if you do not obey me, I will send plagues and kill you slowly. Now, what do you think that kind of evil doctrine in a little child's mind would do to that child? So is there anything that Jesus said and did that remotely resemble anything that Moses or Yahweh said and did? That's very slim pickings. There's not much. Moses set up a hierarchy. Jesus totally taught against hierarchies. To his disciples, who he was going to say, go into all the world and teach them all the things that I've taught you, to love and to forgive and to be peacemakers and to go the extra mile and to forgive and all of these things. The disciples, Jesus washed their feet. And then he asked them, he said, do you understand what I did for you? You call me Lord and Master, and that's true because that's what I am. But if I, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, I am giving you an example that you are to wash the feet of others. And in Luke 22, I believe, he says, in this age, the kings of the world, man, they rule over their subjects. And look at what the governments are doing to us today. He said, but it's not going to be that way in the kingdom of heaven, because the greatest is to serve the weakest, and the one that wants to be the greatest must be like a child in serving the others. Moses gave an angry, jealous God that is to be feared. And boy, you read the Old Testament, he is a God to be feared. But that allows a priestly hierarchy to control the minds of the masses through fear. And so they'll gladly bring their tithes and offerings and their best animals for sacrifice. But you read the Gospels, what Jesus says that God is like. He turned Moses' view of Yahweh on its head. God is like the parable of the prodigal son, the most loving, forgiving, benevolent God ever. And Jesus said, I only do what I see my Father do. And if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And you're talking about Moses' view of God and Jesus' view of God. They could not be more polar opposite, like light and dark, and God and the devil. And there are many other differences. Like Moses, you have to have a big, confusing book that, you need to really study. Jesus said, all you got to do to fulfill all the law and the prophets is just love the Creator and love our neighbor as ourselves. That's it. Then you fulfill it all. Jesus said to the woman at the well who asked, what's the right temple? Do we have to worship in the temple of Jerusalem, or can we worship here? He said, hey, the time's coming and it's here now where you don't have to worship God in a temple. God is spirit. He's everywhere. And we are the temple, so we don't need a temple to worship. He tore into the priesthood too. He called them every name in the book: blind guides, the den of thieves, snakes, stealing widows' houses, evil, keeping people out. I mean, read like Matthew 23. It's woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. He was standing against them, standing up for the people, because they were keeping people from finding the kingdom of heaven. And he stood against animal sacrifice. Josephus, the historian, says that on Passover, over 250,000 lambs were slaughtered. Now, that's a mass slaughterhouse right there, but it's big money for the priests. And Jesus went in and opened the pens and let the animals out and just flipped over the money changers' tables. And he said to the priest, go learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. And the only teacher of the law that Jesus ever really complimented was one who said, to love God and our neighbor as ourselves is way more important than all the burnt offerings and sacrifices. And Jesus said, you just about got it. Okay, I want to end in John chapter 8. And Jesus, they just brought him, the woman caught in adultery, to try to trap him up, but he got out of it. So later the Pharisees come back, and Jesus is teaching in the temple in Jerusalem. And this is the Pharisees, the ones that, they are in the temple all the time. They strain their tea so they don't swallow a gnat and make themselves unclean. These are the followers of Yahweh, of Moses' law. And Jesus is talking to them, and they're saying, you're not even telling the truth. And Jesus said, I speak what I hear my Father say. And they say, where is your Father? And Jesus said, you do not know me, and you do not know my Father. And they go on down and they say, the only Father we have is God himself, and we are his children. And Jesus said, no, your father is the devil. And they go on down and they're talking. And Jesus says, if I honor myself, my honor does not count, but it's my Father, who you claim is your God, that honors me. And Jesus said again, but you do not know him. Now, I don't know how you can get much more clear than that Jesus was saying that this temple that you don't need, that Jesus said you don't need, the whole holy book that Jesus said all you got to do is love God and love your neighbor as yourself, you don't need, the sacrifices that you don't need, the priests that you don't need. Jesus was tearing down the system, and that's why he was crucified. So I got all of the scriptures that I use in here. They're in a PDF. Click on that because I got them printed out, the references. You can go over this yourself. Think about it. And I'm willing to talk to anybody. I mean, call me, have me on your podcast or whatever. I would like to talk about this because the world, the way it is now, we need to shift our thinking a little bit. And I think seeing Jesus as he is without interpreting him through all the rest of the Bible, man, it's a game changer. So anyway, thank you for watching. Give this a like, subscribe if you haven't, and let's pray for the kingdom to come to earth, and let's work to make it happen.